So it's official. Even though Casper, as of right now, isn't doing the best in terms of price, they actually recently joined the X402 Foundation. I'll explain why I think this matters, even though nothing I say is financial advice, and even though I am not telling anyone to do anything. But we got to think about this. Casper recently made a post saying how Casper and some of our friends in the industry did a thing, in which case they joined the X402 Foundation. We got to think about this. The goal of this foundation is to basically help build infrastructure standards for the AI agent economy, and it's very focused on payments. We got to think about this as well. Who are those who also joined the X402 Foundation? We take a look at Amazon Web Services. Ever heard of that? It's pretty legendary, right? We got to take a look at as well. Google, Microsoft, Stripe, Visa, MasterCard, and many others. So we got to think about this. They're not playing around when it comes to this. And when it comes to Casper, despite, it not doing the best, basically, it's still doing stuff like this behind the scenes. So sometimes the price charts are not an accurate representation as to how well the project is doing. So again, this puts Casper in such a legendary territory. Now, it's not going to instantly affect the price charts, which it clearly isn't. But what this could do is actually help Casper a lot moving forward, because what this could very well do is allow for Casper to have better connections, better networking capabilities, because now that they're part of this foundation, could you imagine? It's going to be easier for Casper to communicate with other members on there, right? Not every single person there, or not every single member there, is going to know what Casper is. So this gives Casper a great chance to talk about it and say, hey, you know what? We're this layer one blockchain. Why not? Right? I mean, maybe they might do something, maybe they might not, but at least they can try, and now they have an easier pathway. Instead of in the past, if let's say they had to contact something pretty massive, they had to go through multiple channels, it's kind of difficult. It gives them an easier route to talk about potential partnerships, collaborations, and ideas. It's such an excellent networking opportunity, in my opinion, when it comes to Casper. But yeah, besides that point, people like to tell me that, oh, Casper, it's fundamentally bad. But we got to think about this. Because the X402 Foundation has this heavy emphasis in regard to AI, this does kind of further establish Casper as this sort of player within this space that could make an impact when it comes to AI. It hasn't really been doing that as of late, of course, because the market overall isn't doing the best. But could you imagine if that AI narrative were to kick in, if it were to happen in such a massive way within this space? Casper's waiting right there. I think also sometimes people ignore the fact that Casper has an aspect of ISO 20022. Now, people like to say, well, why does this matter? Well, it's because if we take a look at it, something like Ripple, something like Stellar, that has an aspect of ISO 20022. So what, it's suddenly bad when it comes to this? No, I don't agree with that. I think it's actually equally as awesome, if that's even the way I want to take a look at it. And why is having that aspect even so important? Well, it's because ISO 20022, that is currently being used by many financial institutions from all around the world for something called inter-organizational data exchange. So basically, a lot of projects that are focused on global trade and finance, they have an aspect of that. Now, if we take a look at Casper, it's not really known for that, but at least it has an aspect of that. And then also we take a look at the strides that it's making in regard to AI. So Casper, it's not a one-trick pony. There's a lot of things that Casper could hypothetically do. Now, people like to say, but this doesn't change the fact that the price is at basically, near all-time low levels. I'm not joking. We take a look at the all-time low. It achieved it around 19 days ago, and clearly we're just around 7.5% higher than that. Could you imagine this? We're nearing all-time low levels, at basically all-time low levels, I should say. So people like to say, well, this sounds so counterintuitive. Why would that be like anything to even talk about? Well, it's because I don't mind the hypothetical dip. Now, I'm not telling anyone to do anything, but if I just take a look at it historically speaking, is Casper closer to a bottom, or is it closer to its ceiling? It's very close to its floor, very close to its all-time low. And just to think about this, if let's say Casper were to recover to around a 250 million market cap, which it achieved back in December 2024, so not that long ago, over a year ago, but not too long ago. But I'm just saying, if it could recover to that, guess what? We're over 8 times lower than that as of right now. Over 8 times. If it could just even go to half of that, I'm already going to Sizzler, the restaurant. But besides that point, let's just think about this as well. Casper, back in August, right, of 2025, was at around $145 million in terms of market cap. So again, if we take a look at that, we're almost 5 times lower than that. We're almost 5 times lower than August of 2025. August of 2025 wasn't even such a good time for altcoins anyways. And yet, Casper is this low, which I won't complain about because again, I don't mind the dip, but I'm not telling anyone to do anything. Now people like to say, well, it sounds so counterintuitive. Why would you care about the dip? Well, it's because in real life, I don't think I would care about a discount. Like I wouldn't mind in a sense where I wouldn't be complaining at that in real life, right? Let's say I walked inside a store like Costco or whatever, I'm not going to be complaining at a discount. It makes no sense. But when it comes to the space, sometimes it works a little bit differently. People sometimes don't like things being down. Totally understandable. But because my mindset is years anyways, it's not months, it's not days, it's not weeks. And because it's years, this type of stuff, it's just kind of background noise to me anyways, because at the end of the day, I'm thinking more so about the long term. So if I take a look at this, it doesn't necessarily concern me as much as if I was a trader, right? I'm not a trader. I treat this like a marathon. It's not a sprint to me. If I take a look at it as well, people like to tell me that, well, there's so many layer one blockchains out there. How is a project like this, which is ranked 560th in the world in terms of market cap within this space, how can it even make a big difference? Well, it's because, again, we take a look at what Casper is being noted for, right? Its aspect of AI. We take a look at its aspect of global trade and finance, arguably speaking. And then also on top of that, we take a look at how it's still, at least surviving. Some other projects out there, they've closed up shop. Take a look at Cadena, a project that I was a fan of, but then, that closed up shop. But when it comes to this, it's apparently still going on. Now, again, this is just my personal perspective as to what I'm seeing, but I'm just saying, if I take a look at Casper, historically speaking, it has a pretty decent presence, and then I take a look at the aspect of AI and global trade and finance, I don't think it's such a bad layer one blockchain. I don't think it's going to become obsolete like that. The thing about this space is this: not every single project out there is going to be top 10 or top 20 or top 50. That's not the case. Not every project can do that. But at the same time, Casper does not need to do anything groundbreaking to be considered quite impressive, in my opinion. Again, we're almost 5 times lower than August of 2025, and we're over 8 times lower than December 2024. Like, if it could just return back to those points, which we've seen Casper reach before, it's not such a monumental milestone. If it could just go back there, I'm already going to Sizzler. This does not need to be the next, Solana or the next whatever layer one blockchain people want to compare it to. That's massive, right? It doesn't really need to be like that. If anything, if it could just return back to its previous points before, I have nothing to really complain about, but that's just my mindset. Also, on top of that as well, if I take a look at it, people I think sometimes ignore the fact that Casper, in terms of its listings, it's still not that bad. And again, people like to ask me sometimes, well, it's doing so bad though. But again, I don't really mind things being low because I'm focused on dollar cost averaging. Personally for me, I'm never going to be able to know when things could recover or whether or not they could. But one thing I'm focused on is just waiting. That's it. I'm focused on things that are within my control. And that's my patience, and that's me just waiting. I'm not telling anyone to do anything, but at the same time, the market is going to do whatever it wants to do. I could pull up a price chart, draw a random triangle. It's not going to matter. The market's not going to care about what I have to draw. Instead, I just wait, I'm holding, and that's it. I don't have to. It's purely voluntary, but at the same time, I'm just focusing on the projects that I'm a fan of, and I'm taking a look at the updates. And when I see Casper, allegedly, not too long ago, joining the X402 Foundation, I found that pretty impressive, so naturally, I wanted to make a video on it. But I'll be sure to make more updates moving forward, though, so hopefully, y'all stay tuned for that. It's been Lee the Captain, and hopefully, I'll see y'all in the next one. I'm out. Peace. Bye.